What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 176 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Wednesday, August 5th, 2026. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of baseball, as both New York teams were in action this weekend, and we start things up in the Bronx with the New York Yankees as they continued on this 10-game road trip starting out in Philadelphia. Last weekend, they win 2 out of 3 against the Phillies. Then they take on the Chicago White Sox for a 4-game set out at Wright Field, and they win the first 2 games of the 4-game set, lose the next 2, so they split it 2-2, and then they continue on in Chicago, this time on the other side of Chicago against the Chicago Cubs, and a tough series against the Cubs, but the Yankees win it 2 out of 3, and it started on Friday, an afternoon game at Wrigley Field, and Will Warren on the mound for this one. Warren, who's been up and down lately, had a really bad outing against the Philadelphia Phillies just a couple of days before that, where he lost the game with only 3 innings, 6 hits allowed, 6 earned with 2 walks, 5 Ks, allowed a home run as well, his 5th loss of the year. But then he comes back and really takes it to this tough Cubs lineup, holds them to a shutout in this game. 6 2/3, 4 hits allowed, no runs with no walks, 7 Ks. Got a couple of bombs from the Yankee lineup in this game as well. Ahmed Rosario with a bomb into center field, 450 feet. Follow that up with Spencer Jones in the top of the 5th. Next inning, he ends up hitting a bomb himself, 418 feet into right center field. Gives the Yankees a 2-0 lead. Both home runs off of Shota Imanaga. And David Bednar comes in for the save for the Yankees, 23rd save of the year for David Bednar. So a 2-0 easy win for the Yankees. Then they go into Saturday's game, and it got a little bit out of control. The Yankees bullpen could not hold up with this Cubs offense, and they really took it to Fernando Cruz in this game. He ends up getting charged with the loss, 4-6 on the year. He goes 2/3 of an inning, 1 hit allowed, the 2 earned runs for Fernando Cruz in this game. Also had a walk on his line. Just not good enough from the Yankee pen that had the Cubs at bay for a while. It got into the 7th inning, though, and that's where the Yankees bullpen ran into trouble. A 3-spot from the Cubs lineup after the Yankees took a 2-1 lead on Spencer Jones. Another home run, another solo shot, back-to-back games with a blast, and Spencer Jones starting to heat up right now, but the Cubs win the second game of the 3-game set, 5-2, the final. And then they go into the final game, the rubber game of the 3-game set, out on Sunday afternoon, and Garrett Cole got the ball against Colin Ray for the Chicago Cubs, and Garrett Cole ends up getting the win. Really good stuff from Cole in this game. 5 2/3, 4 hits allowed, just the 1 earned run with 3 walks and 5 Ks. Colin Ray allows a 2-run bomb to Jose Caballero in the 3rd inning to give the Yankees a 2-0 lead, and Ray ends up getting charged with the loss in what was a pretty solid outing in the end. But David Bednar, once again, it got a little antsy there throughout for this Yankees team. They got out of a couple of jams with Brent Hedrick going in an inning and a third. Then you have Paul Blackburn with 2/3 of an inning. Got into trouble, but got out of it. And David Bednar ends up getting an inning and a third, 4-out save for the Yankees. Really good stuff from the Yankees in this series. They beat a tough Chicago Cubs team that was red hot coming in, and they take 2 out of 3 out at Wrigley. So the Yankees come back home now and take on the St. Louis Cardinals, and it started on Monday where the Yankees ended up getting blown out in the end. 13-7 is the final score in what was a very close game. In the middle of it, it was a blowout at the beginning, though, as the Cardinals absolutely blitzed the Yankees in this one early on. Cam Schlittler with one of his worst outings of the year. 3 innings is all he goes. 4 hits allowed, 4 earned with 5 walks and 6 Ks, 83 pitches, and he is out of the game. And it came down to the two-run bombs from Alec Burleson. That really was the story in this game. And really, Schlittler did not get charged for the second one. He was not in the game for that one. But Burleson ends up hitting 3 separate two-run bombs, in this game, and that was the difference for the Cardinals. 6 runs up on the board in the blink of an eye. And of course, when you look at the Yankees, give them credit. They fought back in this game. Austin Wells, who's gotten a lot of slack, especially with the trade deadline on Monday. Austin Wells ends up getting a 2-run bomb to get the Yankees on the board 6-2, and then Grisham follows that up with back-to-back home runs 6-3. It is in favor of the Cardinals, and then the Yankees in the 7th inning. That's where they really got hot. Ryan McMahon with a solo bomb. How about Jose Caballero? The next batter ends up hitting a solo bomb himself at 6-5. And then a couple of batters after that, Luis Garcia Jr., welcome to the Bronx, his first game as a Yankee. And what a way to show up. Hits a bomb into right center field, into the bullpen. And it really shades of Robinson Cano with that swing. He gives the Yankees a 7-6 lead. The Yankees would then give it up in the next half inning. Angel Chavy with his worst outing of the year. Couldn't come at a worse time, and he gives up 3 separate 2-run bombs. It was the story of the game. 2-run bombs for the St. Louis Cardinals. It actually ended up being a 3-run bomb, the first one to Nathan Church, but the rest of them, 2-run bombs, and a lot of them in this game. 4 separate 2-run home runs, and then a 3-run home run for the Cardinals. The ball was flying out of the ballpark at Yankee Stadium on Monday, and the Cardinals take the opening game of the 3-game set, 13-7, the final. Then you go into Tuesday's game, and this is where the Yankees really bounced back. And the day after the trade deadline, there was only one storyline heading into this game, and it was that the Yankees decided to call up their number 1 prospect, 20th ranked in all of baseball, George Lombard Jr., has arrived in the Bronx, and they send down Anthony Volpe as well as Jason Dominguez in the same couple of moves. Questionable? Yes, but it was the right time. I think absolutely looking at it, George Lombard Jr., you see the talent that he brings to the table, and this Yankees team needs a boost on offense. This guy is smoking hot in the minors right now, and he definitely deserves a shot right now, especially with what the Yankees are getting from a guy in Anthony Volpe who's been so bad so far this year. Just really not the same player that he was a couple of years ago. And even when that was happening, a lot of Yankee fans were getting on him. He absolutely deserves to be in the minors right now. He's not played well, and it comes down to that. George Lombard Jr., though, I mean, welcome to the Bronx. There's no better way to cap it off in a debut with a bomb into left field. He gives the Yankees a 2-0 lead. His first career hit is a first career homer for Lombard Jr., and he gives the Yankees a 2-0 lead after Jazz Chisholm hit a solo bomb in the 2nd inning. 2-0 Yankees. That's all they needed. Brian Weathers was terrific in this game. 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs with 1 walk and 6 Ks. Great stuff from him. Bednar gets another save. The Yankee bullpen locked things down. Cruz, Hedrick, and then Bednar. And the Yankees win it 2-0 in the second game of the 3-game set at Yankee Stadium. And the final game of the 3-game set, the rubber game, takes place tonight. It's going to be Will Warren on the mound, 8-5 this year, 4.14 ERA. He's going up against Andre Palante, who's been really good under the radar this year for the Cardinals, 11-6, 3.72 ERA. And Warren, I mentioned, he had that bad start after coming out of the bullpen during the doubleheader against Pittsburgh. He ends up having that terrible start against Philadelphia. Gets himself settled back into the rotation. Really good outing against the Chicago Cubs on Friday. He looks to match that tonight, and we'll see what happens. 7:05 start. It's Warren against Palante. Make sure you tune in tonight at Yankee Stadium. Shifting things to the other side of New York, as the New York Mets were also in action this weekend, and it was a long weekend for the New York Mets. A lot of storylines coming in and out about who's going to get traded, who's going to stay on the roster. And really, the Mets coming off of that series against the Atlanta Braves, where they took 2 out of 3 against Atlanta. Really good stuff from them. The second and third game of that series was a doubleheader day-night on Wednesday. They take 2 out of 3, though, against a very tough Atlanta Braves team. And you're seeing a little bit of positivity, but you know it's really getting into sell mode for the New York Mets. So they go into the 4-game set at Citi Field against the Miami Marlins. It started off pretty well on Thursday. Brooks Raley ends up getting the win in what it was thought to be his last appearance as a New York Met. After Nolan McLean went 6 1/3, 6 hits allowed, 2 earned with 2 walks and 6 Ks. Really good outing from McLean in the end. He gets through 6 1/3, but of course the Mets were at that point tied at 2. He gave up a couple of solo bombs, McLean did in this game, Stowers and then Marcy. But the Mets offense, give them credit, they stepped up and got to this Marlins bullpen after Yuri Perez only allowed 1 earned run. It ended up being Peterson who comes out of the pen and allows 3 hits, with 2 of them being earned, and Luis Robert Jr. was the big blow in this game. He ends up getting a big-time hit. He's safe at first. It's not counted as a hit, but ends up getting on base. Lindor ends up scoring on an error, and then Luis Robert Jr. a couple of innings later, when it's tied 2-2, the Mets need a moment here. Bases loaded, and he hits a 2-run single into left field to give the Mets a 4-2 lead. Great stuff from Robert, who's been invisible for most of this season, and he ends up getting a big hit for the Mets. So give them credit. They end up getting a tough win against the Marlins, who were struggling right now, but were really hot for the month of July, or the month of June, excuse me. Hottest team in baseball. Then they struggled in July. Now they're looking to get back to normal at 500 right now, but I think looking at it, the Mets, you got to give them credit with the guys still fighting on the field, even though a lot of them will be off the roster in just a couple of days, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But looking at Friday's game, that's where it really went downhill, and the Mets had to scratch Freddie Peralta from his start on Friday because, of course, he was on the market, on the trade market, ends up getting traded to the Tampa Bay Rays, and Kodai Senga gets the start for the Mets in this game. He had really good stuff through 4 innings, but that's where it got into trouble in the 5th inning, and it ends up being 3 earned runs charged to Senga in this game. He falls to 0-8 on the year. It's 4-0 Marlins at the end of the 5th, and then you go into the rest of the game. A.J. Ewing in the next half inning makes it 4-1, and Francisco Lindor with a solo home run to make it 5-2. That would be the final, as the Marlins take the 2nd game of the 4-game set. Then you go into Saturday's game. Zach Thornton with another start for the Mets, ends up getting the ball in this game, and not really a great start in the end for Thornton, who ends up getting charged with the loss. 2-2 on the air. He goes 4 2/3, 6 hits allowed, 3 earned with 3 walks and 2 Ks. It was reunion day with the 1986 reunion at Citi Field, and the Mets end up losing this game 6-2, the final. Couple of home runs that really hurt the Mets in this game. Sanoja with the biggest blow, 3-0 in the 2nd inning after Sanoja hits a 2-run bomb after Hicks hit an RBI single in the 1st. Then a home run later in the game with Griffin Conine launching one into right field. That point, it was 5-2. Hicks would add on with an RBI single to make it 6-2, and that's how it would finish. The Mets lose their 2nd in a row, 3 of their last 4, and they go into Sunday's game trying to figure out something, but also knowing in the back of their minds that a lot of these guys will not be there within the next 24 hours. And Sandy Alcantara was absolutely terrific in this game for the Marlins. 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 5 Ks. Typical for Sandy Alcantara against the Mets. And then Robert Stock on the other side, great story for him. Was coming back from a couple of injuries, but the biggest one, thoracic outlet surgery that he had dealt with in the last year or so. Comes back, 36 years old, gets the start, and was really, really good for the Mets in this game. He goes 5 innings, 3 hits allowed, just the 1 earned run on max home run, and no walks, 4 Ks. Really good stuff. Even though he gets charged for the loss, it's more about the story, and Robert Stock really did a good job in this game. Surprising from the Mets that they ended up setting out a bunch of their relievers out of the pen. Brooks Raley, Luke Weaver, Huascar Brazoban, all guys that were traded the next day. They end up all getting their last appearance as a New York Met, and they end up getting the loss in the end, the Mets do, because their offense just could not get anything going. 0 for 12 with runners at scoring position. not going to win you many ball games. And the Mets lose 3 out of 4 against the Miami Marlins at Citi Field. So the Mets then head into the next series against the Cleveland Guardians. And it started last night with a 6-2 Mets win. Sean Manaea on the mound. He was terrific in this game. And the fastball has really been working well for Manaea recently. He goes 6 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned, 5 walks, 7 Ks. Wasn't his best outing in the end, but the fact that he goes 6 innings with only 2 earned runs, and the Mets offense really answered the call in this game, that's a good outing and what the Mets are looking for from Sean Manaea. Needs to cut down on the walks, 5 of them, just a little bit too much, but his catcher behind the plate was really good on the day, and he was also good at the plate. Luis Torrens with a really good game, 9-hit, or his 9th 3-hit game of his career. He also had his 6th 4-ribby game of his career. And Louis goes 3 for 3 with a home run, 4 RBIs. He had the 3-run home run. That was the really big blow. 3-0 Mets in the second inning off of Joey Cantillo. And the Mets, give them credit. They continue to fight. They continue to find ways to win some ball games, even though the roster is not complete. This lineup looks pretty solid, even so, without Juan Soto in it as well. The lineup is starting to get things going, and a lot of these guys I know were expected to do a lot more this year, but in the end, they have a couple of games here and there where the young guys really step up, as well as the veterans really stepping up, and that's what you want to see heading into 2027. So the Mets end up taking the first game of the 3-game set. The next game is tonight. It's Christian Scott getting the ball for the Mets. He has been really solid this year. 3-3, 2.99 ERA. He's going up against Tanner Bybee, who the win-loss record is horrible at 4-11, but the ERA not that bad at 3.81, and we'll see what happens. Make sure you tune in tonight. It's a 6:40 start, early start out in Cleveland as the Mets take on the Guardians out at Progressive Field. With the deadline passed, let's give a couple grades to the New York team. Starting with the New York Yankees, I'm going to give them a C. They got potentially the best bat on the market in Luis Garcia Jr. from the Nationals. He's already had an impact, and they also add an extra outfielder, which they desperately needed. They add Elliot Ramos from the San Francisco Giants. The problem for the Yankees, they could have used a couple more arms out of the bullpen, especially with how many relievers were on the market this year. They also could have used a right-handed catcher. I do give the Yankees credit. They're sticking to their guns on Austin Wells, who has not been good offensively this year, but defensively, he's the best catcher in all of baseball, far and away in terms of catcher ERA. Heading into Monday's game, 2.84 ERA for Wells behind the plate this year. The second best is 3.21 in all of the majors. So they will stick with Austin Wells. Hopefully he gets the offense going, and we'll see what happens with Wells as the year goes on. But a solid deadline for the Yankees in the end. They got a couple of guys coming back from injury later on in the year. They also add George Lombard Jr. to the major league roster, and what an impact he had on night one for the Yankees. They did need to fill a couple more holes, so that's why I'm sticking at a C, but a solid deadline for the New York Yankees this year in 2026. As for the New York Mets, I'm going to give them a C+. They did what they wanted to do. They got rid of everybody, and that's step number 1. They also end up grabbing a top 100 prospect in Jefferson Rojas from the Chicago Cubs, already ranked number 1 in the Mets system according to MLB Pipeline. 2 problems for the Mets at the trade deadline, though. Problem number 1, they give up 9 players from the 40-man roster, and it seems by the look of it that they only got 1 true slam dunk prospect in Jefferson Rojas. I feel like they could have gotten a little bit more, but maybe that's not what the market was. Problem number 2, though, they gave up a couple of guys that were under control for next season and beyond for a bunch of nothing. Luke Weaver, who's under control for next year, plus cash considerations for the Pirates' 9th-ranked prospect in Sammy Stafura, and maybe he could be something in the end. A lifelong Mets fan, it seems. Could be a great fit for this Mets organization. But I feel like they could have got a little bit more for the number 1 reliever on the market in Luke Weaver. Just not good enough in the end from David Stearns' side. And then you look at Huascar Braziban, who has a couple more years of control. gets traded to the Chicago White Sox for two very low-ranked White Sox prospects. Maybe those guys can be something, but I feel like I would rather the control with Braziban a couple more years, having him in the Mets bullpen for even next year when the Mets are trying to contend, if they can even get to it. They give him up for a bunch of nothing and two very low-ranked White Sox prospects. So I feel like the Mets could have done a little bit more at the deadline. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be, but they get Jefferson Rojas, and that's the one that Met fans are excited about. The top 100 prospect, ranked 68th in the majors, according to MLB Pipeline. He will be a huge impact in the Mets farm system, and we'll see how he does as the Mets continue on treading towards 2027. But that'll do it for episode 176 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, and thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Monday.